Now, for nearly 70 years, Mad has arguably been the world's most influential and iconic satire magazine. But it's been announced that its days are numbered and it will cease publishing new material after its next issue, before ending altogether soon after. Now, for more on its legacy, I'm joined by Jason Chatfield. He's a contributing cartoonist for Mad magazine and also president of the National Cartoonists Society in the US. Jason Chatfield, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Take us through how you felt, firstly, when you first found out that Mad magazine, pardon the pun, was going to fold.
Yeah, it was obviously devastating. All the usual gang of idiots got the email the day before Independence Day, which, you know, wasn't great timing. Yeah, it's obviously a devastating loss. It's a 67-year run as the world's most influential satire magazine, and it wasn't done yet. That's the worst part. It was a lot of managerial mismanagement at DC Entertainment that led to its folding.
And of course, one of my favorite features is the fold-ins, as we saw earlier. But what do you think readers will miss the most?
It's hard to say. Everyone read Mad magazine for different reasons. You had people who read the fold-in at the back. There were people who read the work of Sergio Aragonés. There's people who liked the movie and TV parodies. There was so much to like about Mad over the years that it appealed to a very, very broad audience. And I think that was kind of the genius of Mad. It had a bit of everything.
Now, of course, publishing will end shortly, but how would you eulogize Alfred E. Neuman?
Well, he's definitely worried. I think the overarching thing that I take away from Mad and the whole ethos of that usual gang of idiots is that healthy disrespect for authority, that sort of larrikinism, that sort of never take what the official word is, and always question the powers that be, always punch up, as it were.
Now, you've blamed the demise, as you mentioned earlier, on bad management and, I suppose, big corporate mergers as well. But I want to get your thoughts. Is this a changing market conditions that, I suppose, made a physical magazine like Mad unfeasible?
The thing about Mad is that it was evolving. It really was starting to connect to a wider audience. Back in the days when we were doing consensus comedy, where everyone was watching the same TV shows and movies and reading the same news, it was easier to make references that everyone understood. But these days, everyone's watching their own TV shows on demand, reading their own news, getting music on demand. There's no one channel of information and entertainment. So what Mad did was evolve to cast its net even broader for satire. But unfortunately, it kept cutting costs and firing editors, and it led to, ultimately, its demise.
Now, we are also seeing the scaling back of political cartoons in some of the major mastheads in the US, the New York Times being one of them that you've pointed out. What's behind that?
It's a really unsettling trend. The Times dropped all of their daily editorial cartoons from the domestic and global editions here. They've been in there since the 1800s. It's an unsettling trend. Cartoonists are being fired here for drawing anti-Trump cartoons. And to me, that's a real red flag in any seemingly ailing democracy when satire and satirists start being targeted because of their work.
Of course, you and many other cartoonists say that the demise of Mad heralds the demise of political satire. Now, is it some sort of coincidence that it's happening during the Trump era? And of course, you being one of few hundred individuals who have been blocked by President Trump on Twitter.
Yeah, he's real mature, isn't he? I honestly, obviously it isn't a coincidence. in any kind of administration, if we can call it that, like this, we always look out for little red flags, little signposts of things that we've seen happen elsewhere, to kind of keep an eye on. And I think, as I mentioned, one of the first things is cracking down on satire and parody and comedy. I certainly don't think the demise of political cartooning and political satire, I'm not calling that. There's definitely plenty more scope for that in Australia and in America and all over the world. It's just that the powers that be seem to keep clamping down on it and firing cartoonists and comedy writers, and comedians are being fired and their careers ended over the misconstruing of a single word. It's becoming particularly fraught, and in a divided time like this, it's a very dangerous time to be a cartoonist or a satirist or a comedian.
So what sort of platform do you see yourself in, perhaps in about 10 years' time?
That's a very, very good question. I honestly think that the internet has allowed us to find our own audiences. I think I can genuinely see, I'm very optimistic. I can see a turnaround after this very big dip. And I can see us all communicating through things like, YouTube and Medium and Twitch and a lot of online platforms, many of which haven't even been invented yet, to connect directly to our audience and make a very personal connection in the way that a magazine used to, when you used to, read it under your doona with a flashlight at night. It's the same kind of connection that you can make with an audience, only through a screen instead of a page.
And do you think some cartoons may have gone too far? I'm pointing towards the one by Michael the Adder of Donald Trump playing golf over the body of 2 dead migrants.
Yeah, I don't think that cartoon went too far. I think Trump went too far. I mean, that every good cartoon will divide its audience. It will create conversation. And what Michael's cartoon, and it should be noted, he was fired after that cartoon went viral. And that was in Canada. That cartoon, along with many others like it, uses powerful imagery that gets people's attention. And these days, getting people's attention is getting harder and harder to do. And so sometimes you're forced to put really upsetting imagery in a cartoon to make a very, very serious point. And cartoons don't have to be funny. Cartoons are a very serious and powerful medium. And despite that cartoon using an image that was extremely upsetting of the father face down in the river with his daughter, both dead, trying to enter America. I think that was a very deliberate and wise move on Michael's part, because it got people talking. That's what a good cartoon does.
Okay, Jason Chatfield, we'll see how things evolve. Thanks very much.
Thank you for having me.